I'm done. And over the past couple of months, I've been trying to make the developer experience for TypeScript devs integrating with mobile money providers easier. If you want to know more about that, you can check out my previous video where I go into more detail. In my first video, I explained the different pieces of a great developer experience provided by companies like Supabase and Stripe. The first being an API layer that abstracts away a lot of implementation details. The second, a dashboard with a great user interface for developers to interact with. And the third being an SDK, which is basically a wrap around the API. Check out my previous video where I review how Stripe uses CodeGen tools to generate all their SDKs. I have put a lot of work into implementing both the API and the SDK and have been working on a dashboard for a while now. The dashboard is a key aspect of a great developer experience, enabling easier configuration and management, and I'm satisfied with my current implementation, though it will probably need updates in the future. So let me open it up. A preview of the dashboard is now live, and if you'd like to test it out and give some feedback, you can check it out. I'll include a link in the description. Please note it's still under development, so if you run into a bug, reach out. So let's sign in and get started. On opening the dashboard, the first thing you notice are stores. Stores are important entities in this system and form a hierarchical parents of all other entities in the system except the user who created them. And our user can create as many stores as they like. And creation of stores gives you access to a publishable key and secret key that you can then use when initializing your SDK client. Stores can also help you specify environments for things like testing and production. And these ensure you keep your testing and production entities separate, but still interact with the testing entities as though you're in production. So I'm going to create a first store. And press on submit to create. Once it's done, you get redirected to this screen and you have access to the store we just created. So I'm gonna click on that. And on clicking on that, I go to the store's dashboard. The dashboard overview gives us a peek into any important metrics of the store, like the last successful or failed payments, any recent customers that joined, the most purchased products in our store, and a chart which displays the total purchases over a given range of time, by default displaying the current day's purchases, but this can be updated to any of this. Next, we have the customers, and in this section we can view customers as well as create new customers. So I'm gonna create one. And we can view any other information regarding the customer, like the total amount they've purchased, the number of goods they've purchased, and we can add payment methods to the customer. So, for example, if this customer were to be paying with M-Pesa, let's say we add an M-Pesa number. Okay, I'll just put a random number for now that will include something specific later. So after that's done, I can add. Yeah. And we also have our product purchase overview, which displays the goods that the customer has purchased as well as the amount they have spent. Um, Next, we have the products uh, section where we can view all the products within the current store as well as create new products. So I'm gonna go ahead and create one. And once we have the product created, I can also view additional information about the product, like um, the total sales and the total number of customers who have purchased that specific product, as well as any product purchase metrics. And we can edit the product or create a purchase link. A purchase link provides a simplified way of requesting payment for a customer, whereby if you know the good that the customer wants to buy, you can just go ahead and create a purchase link for them, provide them with the amount, provide the amount, and then send the purchase link over to the customer, who can then open up the URL. The purchase link takes us to a checkout page where the customer is able to see the product they're about to purchase, the amount they're about to spend, as well as fill in any payment details like their phone number, their first name, last name, and an email before initializing the payment. Now, being able to test between different environments, that is, um, production and testing was important. So I have functionality built in to support uh, store transactions between different environments. For example, the current store is in a testing mode, so there are some predefined numbers I can use if I want to trigger either a successful payment or a failed payment. So I'll demo a successful payment for now. As you can see, the transaction gets marked as successful, and then we get redirected to the dashboard page. For now, we get redirected to the dashboard page, but later on, we'll probably be redirected back to the app that triggered the payment. So for now, I'll just continue uh, with our store. So here, as I had mentioned earlier, we can preview some key metrics about our store, like the last two successful payments. There's an additional one because I did some testing before, some testing and cut that part out. But anyway, we can view how much has been purchased, an overview of the purchases over the day, the most purchased products, and our recent customers. And you'll notice the customer we just created gets added in over here, and we can preview the details, the amount spent, total amount purchased, the used payment method, and yeah, same for the product we just purchased, which will have the total sales, total number of customers, and then our product purchase overview, which I'm still working on. Next, you have the payments page. which displays details about the payments that were made within the current store. So first we have a graph that displays successful versus failed payments. So here we can see the successful payments in blue and the failed payments in red. And next to it is a table that lists out the different payments and their statuses. This page will later be extended to include more information, but I'll leave it like this for now. Next, I'll go to the application settings and skip the developer API keys. I'll come back to this later. So in the application settings, we can preview all the details about the current store. That's its image, its name, description, and all that. The important parts are at the bottom here within the danger zone. So in the danger zone, we can toggle the store's current environment between testing and production. By default, it's set to testing, as you can see here and here. And we can also archive a store. That is, if we're no longer working with the store, we can archive it, which is essentially deletion. So I'm gonna toggle this to disable test mode so that we are now in production. So when I toggle the test mode switch, you'll notice this part changes to production and the data we are seeing previously for the testing environment is no longer here. And we can go ahead and create new customers or products for the production environment. And depending on payments that get made and the payments that get made in the production environment will be seen here. Now I'm going to switch back to test mode so that I can go to the API keys. So under API keys, we have both a publishable key and a secret key. The publishable key is meant to be used with the client SDK, while the secret key is meant to be used with the server-side SDK. So, and there are also keys for the different environments. So you have both a production publishable key and a testing publishable key. During development, you can copy this and use this for while initializing your client. So over the next section, I'm going to show some code that uses the current SDK version. So first, what I need is to copy my test publishable key. So I'll do that here. Then let me bring up the code. So I've written most of it out just to save on time, but I'll explain every step of the way. So first we have the test API key, which I just copied from my dashboard. And then I use it when initializing a client. So I create the payment client, point it to my hosted URL, pass in my API key. And once the client's initialized, we can interact with objects within the client like customers. So here I create a new customer. So let's create a new customer called Jakran. Then I give them a payment method. So since we're in the test environment, I'm using a predefined number which will ensure that all payment transactions are successful. Then I pass in a payment type, and I add in, and then I create a cut for that. Next, I create a product and I give it a price. And after I've created a product, I then create a new cut for that specific customer. And then I add an item to that cut. which is the product with a specific quantity of 5. And then I create a checkout. So when I create a checkout, it will return the checkout object in addition to an ephemeral key, which I then used when instantiating payment over here. So when I trigger payment, I pass in the ephemeral key, which identifies the checkout as well as the checkout ID. This here will trigger a request to the customer to allow the transaction. But since we're in test mode, it won't do anything. But this here will trigger the request for the customer to make the payment and return the payment object. With the payment object, we now have access to the payment ID. And with the payment ID, we can check on the status of the payment. So for example, confirm that specific payment. Under the hood, this will check the payment status of the duration of either a minute or 30 seconds. And then once we have a successful status or a failed or a timeout status, we proceed to the next section, where if the status is successful, it triggers this log, and if it's not successful, it triggers this log. So I'm just gonna quickly run this and just new customer created payment method. And then lastly, if the payment was successful, we get this message. Now on the dashboard, you'll notice that that customer has been created and the payments have also been. Let me go back here. Prices of 5 and price of 100. Okay, we can see all the payments that have occurred, as well as the new customer that was created. There is still a lot of stuff left, like fixing bugs and implementing new features. And completing the dashboard was a major milestone that brings the project closer to a version 1 release. I'll continue to work on new features and continue to fix the bugs that are found. I'll post some updates on my progress soon, but until then. What's up is down, what's left is right.